Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this edition of Newscast in the English language on Canal the International. I'm called Morinti at Top Stories. Continue to rain at the Simborg neighborhood since morning following a reported fire incident that many have talked of an explosion of a device at the Light World College. And for about 4 years now, Bamenda, like most parts of the Northwest region, has been quiet on Mondays, which inhabitants observe as ghost town day imposed on them by separatist fighters. But it turned out to be hot today, with wild gunshots thundering in the air in some neighborhoods. Bring the details in this edition of Newscast. And the news of a student getting female teacher pregnant as a government school Biamasi in the nation's political capital is fake and unfounded. School authorities say they are surprised to discover such lies on the social media. Those are major stories. Details right ahead. I've talked Good evening once more. For about 4 years now, the Northwest region of Cameroon, like Bamenda, like most parts of the Northwest region of Cameroon, has been quiet on Mondays, considered as ghost town day imposed by separatist fighters, but it turned out to be hot today, with wild gunshots thundering the air in almost every neighborhood. Latest reports say 2 Amber fighters were killed as a gunfire sent panic-stricken traders rushing out of the food market. More in the following story. The habitual quietness of the years-old Monday ghost town in Bamenda has been shattered this 15 November by heavy gunshots that lasted over 15 minutes. The bullet noise came simultaneously from several neighborhoods like Tarikun, Aziri, Commercial Avenue Travelers, Food Markets, and Church Street. The few persons trekking along the streets quickly rushed back home for safety. Though the reason for the shootout is still not known, residents of the Northwest Regional Capital believe government troops and opposing separatist fighters in the already 5-year-old armed conflict could be exercising their firepower in clashes. This comes after a bloody weekend following the killing of a school kid by a stray bullet from a police officer and the slaying of at least 10 elements of security and defense forces in Santa along Bamenda, Bengui Road, the next day claimed by separatist fighters in an ambush and bomb blast, respectively. The Competitive Support Facility for Cameroon, DAG, has underscored the importance of capacity building for enterprises as crucial for their development and competitiveness in the Central African sub-region. And at the international level, the steering committee of the facility met today in Cameroon's economic city Douala. Gladys Ambodibang has the rest of that story.
In Cameroon, the private sector faces challenges in enhancing its competitiveness due to cash flow problems, energy shortages, difficulties in complying with standards, low human capital, lack of access to financing and raw material, amongst others. The Steering Committee of Competitiveness Support Facility for Cameroon, DAC, created to improve the development structuring and capacity building of the private sector to make it more competitive in the sub-region and internationally, is meeting in its 4th session in Douala to evaluate its work for 2021.
Most of the activities were primarily to sensitize enterprises through intermediary organizations on the activities that the tool brings. And in this sensitization, we got to get in, the different needs of these enterprises. And that led us to the second phase of the work, which is trying now to work with the enterprises based on their needs on the field.
Members of the facility are also reviewing the draft 2022 action plan and the state of the implementation of the financing facilities through the European Investment Bank.
In 2022, which is going to be a very decisive year, we are going to be working with more than 240 companies, helping them issues like their business plans, how to actually write it to facilitate access to finance. The third component is in terms of improving, the energy access or the efficiency of energy, which is a very major problem, with companies in Cameroon having the proper or the effective, energy to be able to run their business and production units.
The facility has been financed to the tune of 6.5 billion francs CFA to assist very small enterprises, small and medium-sized enterprises, and legally constituted intermediary organizations in the agro-industry, catering and hospitality, digital and green economic industry for a period of 5 years.
And evaluating the projects of the Project Integrated Regulatory Review System launch in Cameroon in 2014 is the reason of the meeting of the National Radiation Projection Agency with international experts today in the nation's political capital, Yaoundé. This is to secure the African Nations Cup in Cameroon. The experts of the International Atomic Energy Agency is satisfied with the evolution so far. In the full story with our student journalist in Yaoundé.
Reinforcing the infrastructures and evolution of the Project Integrated Regulatory Review Service in the National Radiation Protection Agency is the main focus of this meeting between the Commission of the International Atomic Energy Agency and the National Radiation Protection Agency in Cameroon this November 15 in Yaoundé.
To strengthen its regulatory infrastructure, in fact, as mentioned, Cameroon has requested that we have a follow-up mission now to review its regulatory infrastructure, and of course it's part of their endeavor to continually improve and to meet their objective.
According to the evaluation made so far, experts say Cameroon has made a lot of innovations in this sector.
First, the IEA had a first mission in 2014 where the regulatory infrastructure was reviewed, and we made some recommendation in 2014, and we've noted that there has been much progress made during the past years. And we noted one very important progress made by Cameroon recently was the promulgation of a new legislation which have significantly reinforced the regulatory infrastructure.
The administrative authorities lay focus on the interest made by the Cameroonian government with the legal framework instruction of the Prime Minister Joseph John Guti and urging the Minister of Scientific Research and Innovation to speed up with the adaptation of the text. This is also in line with the organization of a successful and secured African Cup of Nations in Cameroon.
The news of a student getting a teacher pregnant at Government High School Biamasi in the nation's political capital Yaoundé has been described as fake and unfounded. School authorities said they are surprised to discover such false information on the social media. Maybe an ideal social media user came up with that information following a communique of the principal calling on teachers to dress properly or responsibly. Haisencha has the rest of that story.
It wanes like wild flames on social media that a female teacher of Government High School Biamasi, Yaoundé, has been impregnated by her own student. An information the principal of the institution this Monday highly debunks as fake, unfounded and negative intentions by some individuals to discredit the school.
I am not aware of any relationship between my teacher and my students. In the Government High School Biamasi, I'm surprised with this type of an information, and there is nothing about this. All this is nothing but fake.
She, however, acknowledges that she had signed this internal communique simply to caution teachers of the need to dress responsibly while in schools, for the good of their own image and to serve as an example to the over 4,000 students.
The communique is clear. I believe teachers should always be a model to students, and the objective here is to put the teachers into the right track. I say no to this type of dressing. This type of dressing does not reflect a teacher and also destroy the reputation of the school.
Other teachers and sociologists have saluted the decision of the principal as that which can only promote decent dressing within the school milieu.
The principal is in her right to remind those she ruled that it is necessary to show positive actions in front of students.
According to the school head, her outing was merely after a keen observation of some of her teachers who appear in the classrooms in distracting attire, and as such, this is just a preventive measure to avoid chaos.
The unemployment and underemployment situation of Cameroon remains very critical. Training and vocational training is low, and applicability is presently under scrutiny in Cameroon's economic city Douala, with the objective of addressing the problem of underemployment and unemployment, as we hear in the following story.
The job situation in Cameroon, including youth employment and underemployment, remains critical, provoking stakeholders in the employment and vocational sector to rethink a strategy.
Statistics, we have about 100,000 young people get into the job market every year, but 95% of these are not professionals. So they are certified illiterate, if I may say it that way. Please, you pardon me for these hard words, but it's a fact. And in terms of SMEs, Cameroon's business ecosystem is flooded by the informal sector.
The vocational and employment experts are concerned with the laws governing vocational training in Cameroon and its application.
Is to pursue the implementation of the law governing vocational training in our country. We know our context with unemployment and underemployment. We really need skills appropriate to the needs of the private sector.
With expertise and support from GIZ, participants at the workshop that opens in Douala November 15 will grab skills that would be a solution to end unemployment and underemployment problems in Cameroon.
Those can discuss among themselves and identify the shortfalls of the employment market, reorientate their strategy, reorientate their movement in terms of what they're looking at, so that these can be responsive of the needs of the job market. You know, Cameroon is a free market economy, whereby demand and supply are the forces that dictate in the market.
Critics have maintained the unfavorable business climate for the development of the private sector, low entrepreneurial culture, the education curriculum in Cameroon, especially at the level of the university, which does not match training with the requirements of the labor markets, as some of the contributing factors.
Report brings us to the end of this edition of Newscast on Canal the International. Thanks so much for watching. We have news in the French language at exactly 7:50. This never Senkang with Alain Chislenkanga. But coming up next is the brief with Bubangomna. As for me, I'll be back tomorrow, same time. Good night.